The first property is opening in Tokyo, so it's definitely going to appeal to a corporate traveler or a leisure corporate traveler. And we're not trying to compete with the Shahs and the Shivasoms of this world. Yeah, wellness. I mean, for example, in Tokyo, there's I think 3,500 square meters of wellness space.
Hello, my name is Renae Leith-Manos. Welcome to this podcast, Where to from here, featuring conversations about luxury travel and how it's changing in every pocket of the globe.
I have to ask you what a British Australian who was born in Malaysia is doing living in the stunning city of Stockholm, Sweden.
Love, of course. Isn't that the reason we travel all around the world? Love and work. So yeah, I was born in Asia, raised in Asia, British parents, naturalized Australian. My ex-wife, my children are all Australian, and I have a house in Australia. But my partner is Swedish. So she is from Gothenburg, but lives in Stockholm and has lived in Stockholm and raised her children here most of her life. So that's why I'm here. I travel internationally for work, obviously, but this is where we call home and this is our base. And as I mentioned in the introduction, we have a beautiful apartment in town, and then we have this little country house on the outskirts where we, can get back to nature. I'm a big believer in wellness and nature being part of that wellness routine. Getting in touch with nature is critically important. So I tend to come up here whenever I can, actually, every couple of weeks or so, just for a quick weekend.
Tell me, where does that love of wellness come from in nature? Because obviously you worked for Aman for a number of years. I know that a lot of their properties and the locations they pick are based on the natural environment. Has that had an impact on you?
I think it has, absolutely. Plus, I just think as you get older, you do tend to think about these things a little bit more. Well-being and looking after yourself and longevity, all of these sorts of things, and being around to enjoy your children, your grandchildren, and everything that life has to offer. But yeah, I think my career definitely has played a part. I've been very fortunate to travel the world for work and seen some incredible places and had some incredible experiences. So being in touch with nature is a highlight. I mean, I can't tell you how many photographs of a sunset I have on my camera, and yet every sunset is almost the same. But every single time, it's awe-inspiring, right? It's jaw-dropping. You just think, oh my God,
that feels different. They don't feel the same.
Well, they don't feel the same, and so you got to catch it on camera. But whether you're by the ocean or you're in the mountains or wherever you might be, but nature is critically important, and the facts are there, right? The facts are there that nature plays a major part in our well-being, and so I really enjoy that.
No, 100%. And I have to ask you, it dovetails into the project you've just been working on for the Aman Group, which is the new sister brand, Janu. Is that how I pronounce it?
Yeah, Janu in Sanskrit means soul. Aman in Sanskrit means peace. So if you kind of go back to the roots of the Sanskrit definition, Aman's always been about peace. It's always been about tranquility and exclusivity and getting away from it all and having your private moments with your loved ones. So Janu, meaning soul, is a little bit more of a soulful experience. It's where you mix the beauty and the tranquility of an Aman designed hotel room with a little bit more of a soulful experience connecting with others. Wellness plays a big part, as you mentioned. So does sustainability, actually. And so you're taking sort of the wellness and sustainable elements, mixing it with other people to get that soulful Janu experience. The overall look and feel would be very similar to an Aman. Beautiful big hotel rooms that ooze style and sophistication and a sense of detail. But yet the public spaces will be a little bit more lively. There'll be music playing, there'll be communal dining in the restaurants, there'll be wellness programming for people that want to get together and do wellness experiences. And that's not just the typical kind of 7 a.m. yoga, right? But maybe meditation, breath work, underwater meditation, all sorts of different things that we're folding into the overall wellness experience that will make Janu quite unique, hopefully, and doing it with others. So connecting with other like-minded individuals so that you go away having made some lifelong friends, and having some transformative experience, as well as obviously, beautiful, luxurious hotel stay. I mean, at the end of the day, most hotels offer beautiful room experience and a beautiful bed, and that's really what it should be about, because people go there to sleep, right, ultimately. But around that, if you fold in the Janu elements that make it unique, then you've got a really nice sister offering to Aman, because Aman's all about the peaceful, exclusive experience where you kind of work out by yourself. You have a private session here, you have a private tuition there, you have a private dining experience. Where Janu, you sort of do all of those things, but with other like-minded individuals.
So is it kind of like a health retreat?
Yes and no. I mean, the first property is opening in Tokyo, so it's definitely going to appeal to a corporate traveler or a leisure corporate traveler, and we're not trying to compete with the Shahs and the Shiva Soms of this world. Yeah, wellness. I mean, for example, in Tokyo, there's, I think, 3,500 square meters of wellness space, between the indoor pools and the treatment rooms and everything else, consultation rooms and that sort of thing. So we will work with doctors, and we will take it to quite a deep level, but we won't have invasive surgery, for example. We won't do that sort of thing, but there will be a lot of full holistic wellness offerings. I think the days of spa and calling yourself a wellness resort just because you have a spa and you offer some massages, and a facial and a manicure pedicure are gone. You really have to be looking and exploring much deeper than that. You have to be looking at mental wellness, sleep, nutrition, recovery. Recovery is big these days. How do you speed up and improve your recovery after a training session or after a race or something like that? How do you actually biohack the exercise in the first place? How do you get the most out of a 20-minute session rather than having to slog it out on the treadmill for an hour and a half? All the science, taking the science, talking to the experts, bringing in experts, and making sure that we are, looking at a very holistic form of wellness, and not just purely, a gym and such.
And what's the nutritional offering? And is veganism a big part of the sort of sustainability and wellness piece at this property at Janu, the group?
That's a really interesting question, and the conversation around that can go in many different ways. And I think ultimately you need to think about the diet that works for you and your body type. We all have different body types. We all have different blood types. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. So we would prefer to have our guests work with nutritionalists and put together a program that works for you. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a vegan. That doesn't mean you have to be vegetarian. That doesn't mean you have to stick off carbs. Everything in moderation, because at the end of the day, you still have to enjoy life, right? And if you're going to the gym for 2 hours a day and you're eating next to nothing because you think you need to lose weight and you think you need to do this to look good, then how is your quality of life? And so therefore, how does that affect your mental wellness? How does that affect your the way you turn up to work, the way you turn up with your friends and your family? So I think it's about doing things that make your heart sing, that make you a better person, that works for you. And so, I wouldn't want to preach anything to anybody. I think they have to figure it out for themselves. But we can certainly provide experts and advice and consultations and blood type analysis and all of that sort of thing to put you on the right track. But I do believe strongly that at the end of the day, whatever you're doing needs to make you feel good. You need to be happy, because happiness, laughter also resonates in so much of one's overall well-being.
100%. And is part of the pillar trying to stay younger longer? Is that part of Janu's mission as well for guests?
Yes and no. I think the new Aman and the new Janu both are going into wellness in a much deeper way. Longevity is being looked at. Six Senses are opening a longevity clinic in Ibiza. In fact, they already have just opened that. And I think you will start to see longevity being talked about more and more. these days. So, but how do you stay healthy longer? How do you live well longer? I don't think ultimately we want to live 150, right? I mean, our bodies are just not necessarily made to do that. But how do we live healthily all the way into our 80s and 90s? I was just at Adrian Zecha's 90th birthday party in Vietnam a couple of weekends ago. Adrian Zecha is the founder of Aman and a vision and a legend in our industry, right? And I worked for him for 10 years. And he, at 90 years old, has got 5 hotel brands, still traveling all over the world, doing what he loves to do, which is create beautiful hospitality experiences and properties in incredible locations, focusing on art and history and everything that destination has to offer. And he is doing it with so much youth and vigor. I mean, it was a real inspiration to see him. Now, he's not on any longevity program per se. He doesn't go to the gym for hours a day. He just lives a really good quality life, and he's been happy doing that. And he has a purpose, a real purpose. And I think a purpose can drive people. And I think a lack of purpose can also bring on health challenges we don't necessarily know about scientifically, but are definitely there if you don't have a reason to get out of bed in the morning, or if you don't have the drive and enthusiasm to do what you love to do. And that obviously is going to be different for everybody. Longevity, I think, will definitely be a fad of the future in hospitality. And that's really part of that holistic form of wellness that I'm talking about, and making sure that, that we do our part as hoteliers in the hospitality world in providing the ecosystem for people to be able to do that, but at the same time have a glass of wine and have a pasta dish, for dinner. I don't think it's about all or nothing. I think the balance is critically important.
Great, but I have to ask you about Adrian Zecha. You said he's just celebrated his 90th. He's flying around the world. Does he have his own plane, or how does he fly? It's just such an interesting question at that age.
No, Adrian is very understated. I mean, he drives a normal car. He flies commercially. He dresses generally actually in kind of like a white linen shirt like this and a pair of loose pants. And he has been known to carry a plastic bag rather than a fancy briefcase. So he is, if you met him on the street and you didn't know what he looked like, he would just be another person. He is incredibly humble and incredibly polite, considering what a legend he is. There's no ego there at all, and he's incredibly smart. He remembers. I mean, he hasn't seen me for. I mean, I've seen him for a while, but he hasn't seen my kids for a long time. But he remembers the ages of my three daughters, because I worked for him from 97 to 2007. Now that's a long time ago, and I bump into him every now and then. We have a brief chat, but every time he asks me about my children, and what are they up to, and what am I up to, and so on. And incredibly humble, and you could just sit down and have a cup of tea with him, and he'll give you all the time of the day, and he'll remember all of these incredible facts. He just travels commercially, and he's a beautiful man.
That's so interesting. Do you think that's one of the keys to leadership, is really knowing your people so that they really feel that you're invested in them?
Yes, absolutely. Hospitality is all about people, right? Both your employees and your guests. So, whether you call your employee hosts, ambassadors, or whatever, different companies use different terminologies, but at the end of the day, we are our people. A hotel is a 24-hour operation. A hotel brand is 365, 24 hours a day, multiple locations all over the world with all sorts of different cultures, religions, ways of life, ceremonies, and so on. So you have to, and that's ultimately why people are traveling, right? They're traveling to experience those things. So you have to rely on your people, and to get the best out of your people, you have to empower them. You have to trust them. You have to motivate them. You have to encourage them. You have to train them. You have to give back. You have to give into your people as much as you expect to get out of them, or hopefully even more. So, people are the essence of our industry. And without them, we would be nothing. So yeah, Adrian really does that. And when you look at a lot of the legends in our world, who will remain nameless because I don't want to say anything untoward, but they generally all have an incredible ability to relate. They have an incredible ability to get on with people. They have incredible ability to make people happy, to make people smile just simply with their presence. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's all about caring for the dishwasher. It's all about caring for the housekeeper. It's all about caring for every single one that will deliver the experience to the guest ultimately, because you as a CEO of a company or a COO or a chairman or whatever are not going to be delivering the experience. It's your guys and girls on the ground that's going to be doing that. So they're the important ones. So in an organization chart, we normally reverse it, right? The CEO's down the bottom, and then then your managers, and you work your way up to the rank and file, who are ultimately the most important, because they're doing the job day in, day out.
Yeah, interesting. And tell me, you've worked for many different luxury hotel brands, Six Senses, Habitas, Aman, as we've said, Janu, as we've said. How do you conceptualize the DNA of a luxury hotel brand, and how do you differentiate it from the others in the market?
That's a really good question, and it's getting more and more difficult, to be honest, because there's a lot of great brands out there doing a lot of great things.
Yes, there are.
There are, and Aman really, we sort of set the standard for the high-end small boutique hotel.
Pioneer Anthony Lark. Anthony, do you know Anthony? He was the very first general manager. He's been on this program.
Yeah, Anthony's a good friend of mine, and he was in Vietnam as well. And we had 3 incredible days with lots of laughs and lots of reminiscing about the good old days, and lots of stories to tell, which I won't say publicly. But yeah, so back then, Adrian was the creator. Small 35-room property. Amapuri opened in '88. It was the first, and with only 35 rooms or 40 rooms, I forget. Everyone said, well, you'll never make money. It's not doable. You need at least 120 rooms. He said, well, I'll make money if I charge enough. And back then, I think charging a lot was $500, which in today's term is probably closer to $2,000. And everyone said, all the critics said, well, nobody will pay that. And he said, well, let's see. And of course, he's proven them all wrong. And Aman is what it is today, and very successful. And the newest one just opened in New York, charging $4,000 a night, all built on the name and reputation of the Aman that we all know and love. So it's quite incredible. And back then, no one else was really doing it. But of course, since then, you've got a lot of great brands doing small boutique hotels, small number of keys, charging a lot of money, offering experiential-based tourism that is focused on wellness, sustainability. Six Senses, I think, being one of the better ones, that really does walk the walk and stand for what it believes in around sustainability and wellness, especially. And then you've got the likes of Burj and Como and Alila and places. I mean, I did 8 years with Alila. These are incredible brands, incredible companies doing lots of good things. I think, however, though, there's room for everybody.
Yes.
And the world is a big place, and the population's growing constantly, and the wealth is growing constantly, and we're going to new and exciting destinations and exploring those, which is great. And hopefully, if we do it in a sustainable way, we're giving back to local communities and people as well. So, that's all good, but there is the risk, and it's happening, especially with the bigger companies, of brand blur, right? Brand blur is, what does your brand actually stand for? And this is really your question. What makes you unique? How do you set yourself apart? How do you define yourself? And that's getting harder and harder because, a lot of people are doing it all now. I mean, everybody says they're into wellness. Everybody says they're into sustainability. The question really is, kind of digging through the forest and really finding the trees. So, who's walking the talk, so to speak, or walking the walk. So Six Senses, it's just, I think really to this day and age, they're pretty much the only brand that is really doing sustainability thoroughly and properly. Yeah.
What differentiates what they're doing?
A lot of things. And they put out a lot of data around what they're doing. First of all, they're collecting all the data from every single hotel. Every single hotel has a sustainability manager as part of the team that doesn't do any other job, but is dedicated to be a sustainability manager. And they may have a team underneath them in the slightly larger properties. Corporate office has a team of 3 or 4 people just in sustainability. They record all of their data from all of their properties. Every hotel has to do the sort of the standard that's dictated by corporate. And then they fold in on top of that the things that they want to do in their particular locations. There's a sustainability fund at every property where they take 0.5% of all revenues and put it into a fund that then has to get spent on local sustainable efforts and CSR initiatives in that destination. And Six Senses will actually give up on a contract with an owner if an owner doesn't want to agree to that, taking 0.5%.
Is that right? I did not know that. That's astonishing.
They'll walk away from it. That's incredible. There's millions of examples, and you can go onto their website, you can read up a lot about it. But yeah, they're really doing some incredible things around sustainability. I think a lot of other people are starting to do it now, and a lot of people are talking about it now. And la-di-da, some companies saying, oh, we no longer have single-use plastic. Six Senses didn't have single-use plastic like 16 years ago. They're going for zero plastic altogether. And zero plastic, like in an air conditioning unit, zero plastic in everything. It's very hard to achieve, but they've done a full analysis of all the plastics in every single hotel, listed them all, and they've had a 3 or 4 year program to get rid of them. And I think they've managed to achieve something like 70 or 80% of plastics out of their businesses. So, this is the sort of thing that they do that I think a lot of the other brands aren't doing, that need to do.
Can I just ask you, a lot of the studies that come through show that the luxury hotel guests particularly will sit there and say, I want to stay at a hotel that's sustainable. I want to know that there's zero plastic, all of that. But when it actually comes to them deciding whether they want to reuse their towels or not have their sheets washed, oh, no, they want what they want. They want the luxury services, and sustainability goes out the window. What's your take on that?
Renae, my take on that is we don't give them a choice. The standard should be that we only wash the sheets every second or third day, that we only change the towels every second or third day, that we hang them up, unless they're obviously dirty. What is luxury these days? And that's a really interesting question.
What is luxury these days?
Well, luxury used to be about chandeliers, big, huge atrium lobbies, and marble in the bathroom and gold taps and so on. Now it's none of that. It's almost the opposite. It's about exclusivity. It's about going to destinations and having experiences that not many other people can have. It's about giving back. It's about educating your family when you go somewhere, so you feel good about the trip that you've just made, even though you're burning aviation fuel by jumping on a plane. So that is the new luxury. And so you see people traveling to further and further destinations, whether it be Antarctica or the poles or Eastern Indonesia or remote island destinations and so on. And they're giving back. They're staying with operators that are doing the right thing, and that is luxury, and staying sustainably. Juliet Kingsman is a journalist for Condé Nast, I think, and she specializes in sustainability. And I follow her, and she does some incredible things, and she's always banging the drum of sustainability. And it's really interesting, because then when you sort of read what she has to say, you really do understand that there's a lot of players out there that aren't necessarily doing the right thing, but are talking about it. And so I think that you don't give the guest the choice. You kind of force it on them. And most people won't have an issue with it. They don't necessarily need to have a fresh towel every single time they take one shower. We don't do it at home. We don't change our sheets every single day. We never do that at home, no matter really how wealthy you are or how opulent.
Yes, but I agree. But I think there's still the luxury traveler who has the expectation that when they go away, because they can't afford to do it at home and they don't have the time, that they want to do that when they go away. I hear a lot of that. You must too. It's a very difficult process to educate and convince people that are paying, as you said, $4,000 US a night, say in the Aman in New York, that they can't have their sheets changed every night, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And if somebody wants that, then obviously any good five-star hotel brand would give it to them, right? I mean, if you made that request, then we would change the sheet every day. There's no problem with that, if you want. However, what we're really talking about is, what is your standard as a brand? What are you standing for? What are you promoting? How are you trying to educate people? And so if you change the sheets every day and change the towels every day, then you're not really educating your guests on sustainability. If your standard is one thing, just your standards to each particular guest, then that's okay. I'm not saying we have to tell a guest no.
Yes, no, I agree with you. It should be by request. It should be something that actually actively look for. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But what are you as a brand, standing for? What are your standard operating procedures around sustainability? Yeah.
No, I hear you. And tell me, when you look to the future of luxury hotels, I mean, you are in such a great position, having worked for so many brands in so many different locations in the world. What do you see coming in terms of luxury hotels? How is the industry going to change?
People do want to travel. People do want to have experiences that gets them to see and experience the wonder of the world and this planet that we live on. It was completely evident as soon as travel bans were lifted, people flooded onto planes and they didn't necessarily worry about the risk of contracting. So travel is here to stay, there's no doubt.
Yes.
Experiences are even more important. And, I already talked about luxury, but I think that luxury is changing. But the two things that I have also already mentioned, but I want to highlight to answer your question specifically, that are becoming more and more important, and that is wellness and sustainability. People are really focused on wellness now. And you see it from a development point of view, right? All the sort of the Rosewoods, the Six Senses, the Alilas, the Auberges, the Comos are getting contacted by developers, by hotel owners, landowners that want to build hotels. And the questions and the comments that are coming out is wellness, 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 sustainability, sustainability, sustainability. So they're looking to go for brands that focus on these points because they believe that it's important and that's the future. I think the bigger hotels that focus on conferencing are certainly not dead. It will come back because by nature, as human beings, we need to be together and we believe in the benefits of human interaction. And so, they'll struggle a little bit more than the smaller boutique properties. They will come back and our industry will continue to grow and prosper. But I think that trending will be longevity, will be wellness, will be sustainability, and will be experiential driven travel. You get educated and you get an unusual experience that not many other people can have, and that you do it in a conscious way that will be giving back to communities, that will be educating your family, as I mentioned at the same time.
I agree. And I think the only thing that you haven't mentioned that I think is coming is that this will be in very isolated locations. Because I think, to your very first point when we started talking, is just so important to human beings. And it's not only older people, younger people too are looking for, animals in their natural habitat. We no longer want to see elephants, tied up to a tree. We want, riding on them. We actually want to see them in their natural environment, no matter what animal it is, and the flora and fauna, and even hiking. So the fitness and the wellness, combined with the nature, combined with isolation, peace, lack of Wi-Fi, I think that's also, going to be big. I know Bill Bensley, we talk to him a lot, and the sort of projects he's doing in the middle of nowhere are very much all of that, and cutting down no trees to build 5-star luxury hotels.
Yeah, absolutely, Renae. And I'll pick up on a couple of points you just mentioned. I mean, Bill Bensley's doing some great stuff with Shinta, and Shintamani Wild,
yes.
and so incredible what he's doing in Nepal, and I mean, I love him and love his foundations and so on.
Yes.
Elephant, you may have noticed my elephant cup.
Oh, I didn't. Gorgeous.
Not only because of the size of the cup, it's like the biggest mug you can find, but it's actually full of hot water, ginger and lemon. That's my drink. I don't drink coffee and tea, but But
well done. I'm not off that yet. But you know who we spoke to is Jeff Smith, who's the head of sustainability, who you probably know from Six Senses, who's passionate about elephants. That's why I mentioned it, because he was the one saying, that's a really great example of how not to, connect with nature these days.
Yeah, so the elephant mug is actually because I take each of my daughters when they turn 18 on a safari in Africa.
Wow.
And two down and one more to go. And actually the third one just turned 18 and I'm taking her to South Africa in September. But the elephant came from my middle daughter. We went to Kenya and Tanzania, and we went to John Sheldrich, I think is the name, elephant safari elephant rehabilitation. And they take orphaned elephants and rehabilitate them into the wild. And we went there and we adopted an elephant. And yeah, so safari in Africa, I mean, that's a good one. And you see, even the likes of Four Seasons now getting, in Belmont, getting safari camps in Africa, which they wouldn't have done, 10 years ago.
And tented camps in Asia, not
tented camps in Asia. And so wildlife, I think, is hugely important to us. We've watched wildlife documentaries for a long time, but actually now being able to experience wildlife in its own habitat and preserving wildlife and nature is critically important. And comes from a sustainable point of view, like don't cut down the rainforests in South America to sustain. But then how do we interact with wildlife in a sustainable way? Aqua Expeditions have just put on a new boat in the Galapagos that they'd be doing river cruises on the Amazon and the Mekong. And now they have a seagoing boat in Indonesia and in Galapagos. And, you're having the ability to have these incredible experiences. I think there's only 12 cabins or something like that. So it's very luxurious and very expensive, but you can do it in such a way that's very sustainable. And you have those interactions where you're not impacting nature in a negative way, but hopefully in a positive way. Going on safari in Africa and beyond, I'm actually taking my daughter with and beyond the company. While we're there, they're actually doing a rhino darting and tagging program that they have.
Brilliant.
They tag the rhinos to monitor them and care for them, obviously, because rhino poaching or the horn poaching is one of the biggest problems for rhinos in Africa. So, a lot of the money that you spend on these companies and with these companies actually goes back to conservation efforts.
And what I love is that you as a traveller are choosing to go to these places where you can give back. That's very admirable as well, because plenty of people, can talk the talk but don't walk the walk.
Absolutely. And I'm spending really kind of more than I can afford, to be honest, by going with and beyond. But for me, it's important to go with a company doing the right thing. There's many safari companies, and I could spend a lot less money and give my daughter still an incredible experience. But what Joss Kent anyways is a friend of mine, the CEO of And Beyond. But also I just know them and what they're doing. And so I prefer to spend a little bit more and maybe not take as many trips to stay with a brand and a company that is doing the right thing. And I think that's not just about safari, right? That's everything. I mean, that's all of our holidays, all of our travel. Staying with a brand in a city location. Six Senses are going into cities. So,
as Aman has,
London, Tokyo, and so you can stay when you're doing business with hotels that are doing the right thing sustainably, even if that hotel is in an urban environment that is maybe not necessarily doing all that much, but because they're doing things elsewhere
as a group. No, look, that really makes sense. Guy, I can't believe this, but we've run out of time. I could sit and talk to you. I think we're going to have another interview because you have plenty to say that is so interesting. And as I said, because you have worked for so many brands and you truly are a citizen of the world, you really have a great perspective on the future of luxury hotels and everything that involves. But before we go, where to from here for you?
Oh, where to from here? Well, first of all, back to the city of Stockholm today, this afternoon. Actually, I've enjoyed 2 days up in the country, which has been great. But I got some meetings this afternoon in Stockholm. But next is Croatia. Actually, on the 5th of May, I'm going to a great resort called Maslina on an island called Hvar, just off Split.
Yes, another
That's
one.
next. And it's my first trip to Croatia, so I'm super excited by that. And then the safari with my youngest daughter in South Africa in September, which will be fantastic. Just her and I. It's a daddy and daughters thing I've done with each of my daughters, and then she starts university. So it's a momentous time in her life. She's finished school, turned 18, officially an adult, and off she goes into the world. So excited by that.
How
too.
wonderful. Well, it sounds like you're a fantastic father and a fantastic citizen of the world, particularly with your views on sustainability. It's where we all need to be. And as I said, I'll definitely invite you on again to talk more, because everything you have to say is so fascinating. But
Thanks,
meanwhile,
Renae.
Safe travels, enjoy, and so lovely to meet you here.
Likewise, you take care. All the best.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.